Yes, yeah, no, I never imagined that we'd ever have a president like this, and I hope we don't ever have another president like this again. I mean, I never even imagined there would ever be a situation in which the president of our country was celebrating hundreds of Americans.
They're eating their cats, they're eating the dogs. Welcome back to the program.
Charlie, I thought this was a conspiracy theory, and like all conspiracy theories, it turns out to be true.
What is going on with that lisp? A conspiracy theory, you say? Who is conspiring? Immigrants from Port-au-Prince? I mean...
It all kicks off with the kind of beautiful chaos that only the Trump family seems capable of. A father who treats Twitter like an Olympic sport, and a son trying to convince the world that being born privileged counts his personality. Jimmy Kimmel barely needs to lift a finger for this one. The comedy practically writes itself. Junior Don marches across the political spotlight like a motivational speaker who took a wrong turn into a crypto convention, clutching talking points that sound like they were scribbled on the back of one of his dad's golf receipts.
This was not a good night for the president. Everything he touched was a loser. He posted, "And so it begins," which was either a response to Mamdani winning the mayoral race, or he just sat down on the...
White said it was the most incredible cheer with my father of someone walking into the arena in his history of doing it. An insanely awesome evening with my father.
He's gonna miss that guy so much when he goes to...
Meanwhile, Trump himself storms back into the public eye like a reality show villain who refuses to believe the final episode ever aired. He's not leading a revolution, he's recycling one. Every appearance feels like a reboot no one requested, complete with the same recycled plot lines, tired grudges, and that same confusion about why the rest of the world seems to have moved on without him.
Mr. Mayor, we are on day 35 of the government shutdown, now tied for the longest shutdown since the last time Trump shut the government down. This morning, he threatened to delay SNAP benefits to the 42 million Americans who need them until the shutdown is over. And then his press secretary had to go out there and walk that back because he legally can't do it. It really is amazing. The president says one thing, the White House says...
Trump's obsession with his own legacy is what makes Kimmel laugh hardest. It's like watching a man try to carve his face into Mount Rushmore, using only a spray tan and denial. He calls himself a builder, yet everything he touches eventually falls apart. Businesses, alliances, marriages, credibility. The only structure that's ever survived is his ego, towering like a skyscraper with no emergency exits.
Who is conspiring? Immigrants from Port-au-Prince? I mean, I read that they're woofing I with feathers.
It's disgusting and it should not be happening in America. It shouldn't be happening anywhere else in the civilized world, but that's the reality. Okay? You look at Haiti, you look at the demographic makeup, you look at the average IQ. If you import the third world into your country, you are going to become the third world. That's just basic. Like, it's not racist, it's just fact.
I don't know, sounds pretty...
Don Jr. keeps trying to convince the world that the Trump name still stands for something other than indictments and investigations. He strolls through interviews as if he's on a redemption tour, except there's nothing left to redeem. Kimmel jokes that Don Jr. talks about fighting for freedom while spending his days posting memes that look like they were created by someone stuck in a YouTube comment section from 2016.
It's like the one hand doesn't know what the other tiny, bruised, makeup-covered, greasy, genitalia-grabbing, Sharpie-stained baby hand is doing. And also, hey, you just think about how cruel a person has to be to cut off food to 42 million people. It's the kind of thing that makes you go, oh, no wonder his...
Trump still sees himself as the star of the story, even though the audience stopped watching long ago. Each rally feels like a class reunion where only he showed up, repeating the same grievances and insisting that everyone loves me. Kimmel imagines him wandering across the stage like an aging Vegas magician who's run out of tricks but still demands applause for nostalgia's sake. The cheers aren't belief, they're habit. Meanwhile, Don Jr.'s swagger feels less like confidence and more like caffeine-fueled confusion, like an influencer who stumbled into a revolution and can't find the exit. Trump keeps redefining irony, calling others corrupt while running one of the most self-serving brands since Big Tobacco. Kimmel describes him as a man who built an empire on lawsuits, loyalty tests, and primetime ratings, not to serve the nation, but to serve the camera. Every handshake, every dramatic pause, every rally chant feels like rehearsal for an audience of one, himself. The presidency wasn't a duty, it was an audition for immortality.
16.
And today, the prodigal son took to Daddy's famous escalator to announce what could be the Trump family's greatest grift yet.
It's great to have everyone back here on Trump Tower on this very fateful day, 10 years later. A lot has happened since then, and we're here to announce something pretty special. We've been working for a long time trying to deliver for the American people, for doing something unique for people who'd been underserved. And today we're here to introduce Trump Mobile.
Wow, thanks for doing that.
Don Jr.'s attempts to defend his father carry all the energy of a hype man at an empty concert. He insists the empire is thriving, even as the building burns behind him. Kimmel jokes that watching Don Jr. defend Trump is like hearing someone insist the Titanic is just docking creatively. He waves his arms, flashes rehearsed grins, and declares they're scared of us, all while missing the fact that no one's actually watching. Trump, meanwhile, has learned that being out of office doesn't mean being out of drama. Don Jr.'s social media presence has become a public study in what happens when too much time and too little self-awareness collide. He live streams his thoughts like breaking news, but most of it sounds like rejected podcast material. Kimmel says Don Jr. speaks like a man radicalized by his own reflection, pacing in front of the camera like he's arguing with himself. It's not content, it's a cry for relevance.
Who never missed a Happy Meal in his life is deciding who gets to eat in this country. So after a federal court ordered them to do it, the Trump administration agreed to pay half the benefits, which is not enough, so we are going to have to help. There are many great organizations feeding those who need food. Two of them are here in LA, St. Joseph Center and LA Food Bank. Together, they feed over 1.3 million people a month.
Trump's rallies remain his grandest performance. Part infomercial, part revival, part therapy session for his ego. Kimmel compares them to concerts where the artist refuses to play any new songs. The audience already knows every insult, every pause, every punchline by heart. At this point, it's muscle memory. Trump barely needs to talk. The crowd chants for him. It's not a movement anymore. It's a live-action meme that refuses to log off. Don Jr.'s newest tactic is turning victimhood into an art form. He complains about censorship while speaking on national TV, about persecution while selling merch, and about being misunderstood while saying the same predictable things. Kimmel jokes that Don Jr. could trademark oppressed millionaire if irony hadn't already gone bankrupt. What he really needs isn't a platform, it's a pause button. Trump, meanwhile, has become the never-ending punchline of his own show. His idea of a comeback looks suspiciously like reruns of his last 4 years. Same storylines, fresh lawsuits. Kimmel says Trump's career is like a sitcom that refuses to end even after the cast moved on and the writers quit. Only difference is, this one's bloopers became actual policy.
Is being held responsible for making safety last, but fortunately for him, he's got an ardent defender in one Donald J. Jr.
Pete Buttigieg, you saw in the clip earlier, he's taking some personal time because, 19 days isn't enough time. Plus the time he spent chest feeding while we were in the midst of a supply chain crisis and 350 million Americans were depending on him to do his damn job. But there is no accountability. There's not even the expectation of these guys doing their jobs.
Don Jr.'s public persona has turned into a one-man reality show of confusion. He tries to act serious, but sounds like a motivational speaker who lost his slides halfway through. Kimmel jokes that Don Jr. could give a TED Talk titled How to Fail Upward, the Trump Family Guide to Excuses. He loves talking about leadership, which is ironic for someone whose biggest accomplishment is surviving Thanksgiving dinner without getting fired from the family business. Trump, meanwhile, treats politics like his personal casino. He's the dealer, the house, and the guy claiming the game was rigged every time he loses. Kimmel laughs that Trump could lose at solitaire and still blame someone else. Whenever he's cornered, he invents a new victory, usually one that only exists in his imagination. His strategy is always the same: deny, deflect, distract. It's not politics, it's performance art. Don Jr. still believes he's inheriting an empire, even though that empire is collapsing faster than his dad's tan under stage lights. He talks about carrying the legacy without realizing that legacy is now more courtroom than crown. Kimmel pictures him clutching blueprints for a building that's already been demolished, managing nostalgia for a fantasy that never really existed.
You know, there's a commission that's supposed to review projects like this, preferably before they happen. It's called the Commission of Fine Arts. Their job is to oversee new federal architecture, or it was anyway. Trump fired all of them. They were supposed to advise the president on matters of design and aesthetics to preserve the dignity of the nation's capital. But this is Trump's idea of dignified aesthetics, so now Trump's planning to bring in a new group whose tastes align more with his. He's bringing in the architect from the Cheesecake Factory, Flavor Flav's orthodontist, and the plumber from Cribs to add a chocolate fondue fountain.
Trump's too busy rewriting history to notice the collapse. Kimmel imagines him at Mar-a-Lago, surrounded by framed magazine covers, convincing himself the world still cares. He talks about America like it's a reality show that just needs better writers, unaware that the final twist is the audience finally changing the channel. The empire of outrage is losing steam, but Trump keeps performing because applause, real or fake, is the only thing that fuels him. Don Jr. ends up as the most tragic comic of them all, so lost in his father's shadow that he's forgotten how to stand in sunlight. Every statement he posts, every move he makes, echoes with the silent question, would Dad approve? Kimmel says watching Don Jr. chase relevance feels like watching someone rehearse a play no one else auditioned for. His drive is loud, but his direction is gone. Trump's final act mirrors his first, a showman desperate to pretend the curtain hasn't dropped. Kimmel paints the closing image perfectly. Trump under the spotlight, waving to a crowd that's already gone. The applause he hears now isn't real, it's just memory. He keeps performing, keeps bowing, keeps promising a sequel that'll never arrive. Because in his world, endings don't exist, only promotions do.
Speaking of car wrecks, Donald Trump Jr. appears to have a new lady in his life. DJ TJ has been engaged to Kimberly Guilfoyle since 2020, but he's been spotted numerous times, including last night with another woman with a Palm Beach socialite named Bettina Anderson. There is our prince. Opening the door to the car for her. What is a date with Don Jr. even like? Do you both sip from straws out of the same monster?
Don Jr. stands on the sidelines, clapping a bit too hard, laughing a bit too loud, the kind of forced enthusiasm that screams desperation disguised as loyalty. He leans into every frame, hoping for a spotlight that never truly turns his way. Because in the Trump circus, there's only one ringmaster and one act that ever mattered. The rest are side characters, clowns in a show that's long expired. Don Jr. keeps smiling through the fading applause, holding tight to the role of the faithful heir even as the tent begins to empty. Kimmel wraps the roast with that signature smirk, equal parts humor and disbelief, as if even he can't believe any of this is real. He doesn't need to exaggerate or twist anything. Reality has already done the heavy lifting. The Trumps, in their endless quest for relevance, managed to pull off what no comedian ever could. They turned democracy into a sitcom, never realizing they were the punchline. They didn't blur the line between politics and entertainment. They bulldozed it and sold front row seats to the confusion.
Lincoln bathroom. The problem is, Trump thinks this is his house, which it is. When you stay at an Airbnb, you're not allowed to blow out a wall. This is he's not even a renter. He's a guest in the. He thinks he's OJ. He's actually Kato Kalin. I wonder if he's going to invite the winners of the World Series to this.
Kimmel's tone shifts from sharp mockery to exhausted clarity, because this isn't just a roast anymore. It's an autopsy of a spectacle. He calls it what it really was. Not a political dynasty, but a production. A show built on chaos, sold through outrage, and kept alive by denial. Every meltdown, every scandal, every headline wasn't a crisis. It was content. And Don Jr., forever trapped in reruns, keeps trying to reboot the show, convinced an audience is still waiting for his big break. Meanwhile, Trump is still pacing that same stage, delivering the same lines, convinced the cameras are still rolling. He believes that if he just keeps performing, the world will eventually tune back in. But America has already changed the channel. The crowd is gone, the ratings have dropped, and the applause he hears now is just an echo bouncing off the walls of his own delusion. Kimmel's final line lands like a curtain call drenched in irony. Every performance ends, every illusion fades, and every audience eventually wakes up. No matter how loud the encore or desperate the bow, one truth remains. This show ended long ago.
The other sniveling MAGA turd who has a weird twist on our president's name is Don Jr.
Check this out. Joe Biden, 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 secretly flying. Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden. Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe